Hello. Imagine opening your eyes and your entire world is a white hospital room and the face of a stranger. He tells you he's your husband. He shows you photos of you together, tells you stories of your love, and you desperately try to cling to these memories because your own have been erased. You trust him because he is your only connection to a life you've lost. Now, imagine that one day, a nurse, while taking your blood pressure, discreetly slips a tiny piece of paper into your palm. On it is a single sentence: "He's not who he says he is." This is the story of how my amnesia became one man's perfect opportunity and my deadly trap. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us find and tell stories that will make your heart stop. My first memory is of blinding light and pain, a dull, aching pain throughout my entire body. When I could finally focus my vision, I saw him, a man sitting by my bed. He had kind eyes and a warm, calming smile. "Emily?" he whispered, his voice filled with relief. "Honey, you're awake. I was so scared." I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who Emily was. I opened my mouth to ask, but only a hoarse croak came out. "Shh, easy now," he said, taking my hand. "You're in the hospital. You were in an accident. You have amnesia, but the doctor says it's temporary. The important thing is, you're alive." He leaned in and kissed my forehead. "I'm your husband, Michael, and I'm not going anywhere." Husband. The word sounded strange, foreign, but there was so much sincere care in his eyes that I believed him. The doctors confirmed his story: a severe head trauma, retrograde amnesia. I couldn't remember anything. Not my name, not my life, not the man who was holding my hand. Michael was perfect. Almost too perfect. He brought me my favorite flowers, he said, white lilies. He told me about our life, how we met in a coffee shop, how he proposed to me on an ocean shore, how we dreamed of a house with a big garden. He brought a laptop and showed me hundreds of photos. Here we are at our wedding. I'm in a beautiful dress, smiling, but looking somewhere off to the side. Here we are in Paris. I look happy, but my eyes seem empty. I looked at this woman in the photos, at Emily, and felt nothing. No connection. Michael explained it was the trauma. The body's memory is erased too, but it will come back, you'll see, he would say. But something inside me, a quiet instinct, was on alert. There were small things. He said I adored coffee with cinnamon, but the smell made me nauseous. He brought me my supposed favorite book, but I couldn't get through a single page. It was boring. He called me M, but the nickname grated on me. I blamed it all on the accident. My brain was damaged. I couldn't trust my own feelings. I had to trust him. He was my only anchor in this fog. Weeks went by. I slowly began to walk again. My memory didn't return. Michael surrounded me with a level of care that gradually began to feel like control. He answered calls on my phone, claiming friends and family didn't want to bother me until I was stronger. He spoke to the doctors himself, then relayed their words to me. I was in a cocoon of his making. There was a nurse who often worked the night shift, a woman in her 50s named Linda. She had tired but very kind eyes. She rarely spoke, but she always looked at me with a particular sadness, with pity, especially when Michael was around. I just assumed she felt sorry for my situation. Then, one night, she came in to take my blood pressure, as usual. The room was quiet. Michael had gone home a couple of hours earlier. Linda wrapped the cuff around my arm and began to inflate it. Her movements were routine, but I felt her fingers press something firmly into my palm for a second. When she removed the device, I felt a tiny, folded piece of paper against my skin. My heart skipped a beat. I instinctively clenched my fist. Linda looked me directly in the eyes, gave a barely perceptible nod, and left the room without a word. With trembling hands, under the blanket, I unfolded the note. 6 words, scribbled in pen on a torn piece of napkin. He's not who he says he is. A chill ran down my spine. I read the note 10 times. 20. It couldn't be true. Why would she do this? Was it a mistake? A cruel joke? But I remembered her eyes. There was no joke in them. There was fear. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, and the fog in my head turned into an icy labyrinth. If Michael wasn't my husband, then who was he? And where was my real husband? What happened to him? And most importantly, what did this man want from me? Suddenly, his perfection, his care, his control, it all took on a new, sinister light. I realized I was in terrible danger, and I was completely alone. The next morning, when Michael walked into the room with his usual smile and a bouquet of lilies, I had to play the best role of my life. I smiled back, thanked him, and pretended everything was normal. But inside, I was screaming in terror. I looked at him and tried to see the monster behind the mask of care. I knew I needed to contact Linda, but how? Michael almost never left me alone. I started faking dizzy spells and weakness, forcing him to go get a doctor, which gave me a few minutes. During one of those breaks, I scribbled one word on the same note, help, and left it under my pillow. That night, when Linda came to change my IV, I motioned to the pillow with my eyes. She understood. The next night, she came again. This time, she brought more than a note. Under the pretense of changing my bed sheets, she slipped an old burner phone and a charger under my mattress. Keep the sound off and only call when he's gone. You don't have much time. He's planning to discharge you in a few days, she whispered and quickly left. Discharge me? To where? Not to our home. To a place where I would be completely under his control? That night, after Michael had left, I pulled out the phone. I had no numbers. Who could I call? I didn't know any names. And then, Linda helped me again. The next day, she brought me a newspaper, supposedly for the crosswords. On the back page, a small ad was circled in pen. Frank Miller, private investigator. I solve the problems others can't. And a phone number. I called Frank. He had a tired, gravelly voice, but he listened without interrupting. I told him everything, the accident, the amnesia, Michael, the note. I told him I couldn't pay him right now, but I had a feeling that I was supposed to have money. Why else would all this be happening? Frank agreed. The name I gave him, Emily Carter, from what Michael had told me, and the name of the hospital were enough to get him started. You just sit tight and play your part, Miss Carter. I'll figure this out, he said. For 2 days, I lived on edge. I smiled at Michael, listened to his stories, while every second I was waiting for Frank's call. The call came late one night. Emily, I have news, and you're not going to like it, Frank began without preamble. He told me who I was. I was Emily Carter, yes, but not just Emily. I was the CEO of a successful tech company I had inherited from my father. I was very wealthy, and I had a husband. His name was Mark Carter. Had? I asked, my heart clenching. Yes, Frank said quietly. He was in the car with you during the accident. He died at the scene. I'm very sorry. I was silent. I couldn't remember Mark, but a sharp pain of loss bloomed in my chest. Grief for a man I couldn't even picture. And who is Michael? I asked. Now that's the interesting part, Frank continued. His real name is Ethan Stone. He was the driver of the other car. The crash was his fault. He was drunk. But his lawyers managed to spin it, making it look like your husband was at fault. Now get this. Ethan has massive debts. When he found out you survived but lost your memory and that your husband, the sole heir, was dead, he saw his chance. He stole your documents from the hospital, studied your life on social media, and showed up as your husband. His plan is to take you to a secluded house as soon as you're discharged, force you to sign over power of attorney for all your assets, and then— Frank paused, but I already understood. Then I would simply disappear. A tragic accident, complications from my injuries. No one would even notice. I stared out the dark window of my room as a wave of pure, unadulterated terror washed over me. This man who had kissed my forehead, who had brought me flowers, he was my husband's killer, and he was planning to kill me too. The next day, Ethan, or Michael, arrived looking particularly cheerful. "Great news, honey. The doctor said I can take you home tomorrow. I've already got everything ready at our country house. The fresh air will do you good. You'll recover in no time." The country house, the perfect place for a murder. I knew I had only one chance. That night, I called Frank and told him the plan. We quickly devised a counterplay. In the morning, when Ethan arrived with my things, I gave my final performance. I was weak, obedient, grateful. I let him put me in a wheelchair and push me toward the exit. "I'm so happy to finally be going home, Michael," I said as we reached the main lobby. He smiled. "Me too, Em. There's just one problem," I continued, looking him directly in the eye. "My husband's name wasn't Michael. His name was Mark. And you bastard, you killed him." The smile vanished from his face. For a second, panic flashed in his eyes, but he quickly composed himself. "Emily, what are you talking about? It's the trauma. You're delirious." "Delirious?" I laughed, a bitter sound. "Was I delirious when you told me stories about our wedding, but didn't know I was allergic to the lilies you brought me every single day? Or when you couldn't tell me my dog's name because there weren't any pictures of him on social media?" He stared at me, speechless. I pressed on, my voice getting louder, drawing the attention of people in the lobby. "Or maybe you want to talk about your debts, Ethan Stone, about your drunk driving, about how you left my husband to die on the side of the road." His face twisted with rage. He gripped the handles of my wheelchair and lunged toward the exit. "You're coming with me," he hissed. But as the automatic doors of the hospital slid open, we weren't met with the parking lot, but with 2 police officers and Frank Miller, who gave me a grim, satisfied nod. His game was over. Ethan was arrested. The trial revealed every detail of his monstrous plan. He received a life sentence. Nurse Linda testified against him and became my true guardian angel. I returned to my real home, a home I didn't remember. Every corner was filled with the ghosts of a past I didn't know. Through therapy, old archives, letters, and journals, I pieced my own life back together, bit by bit. I pieced together the image of Mark, my real husband. I learned that we had in fact been deeply in love, and that love, even erased from my memory, had left behind the instinct that saved me from Ethan's deception. My memory never fully returned. The doctors say some things may be lost forever, but I'm no longer searching for the old Emily. I'm building a new one. I took back control of my company, sold the country house where Mark and I had lived, and started a new chapter. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I still see a stranger, but now I know who she is. She is a survivor. She is the woman who walked out of the fog and chose life against all odds. This story is a terrifying reminder that the most dangerous monsters wear human faces. If you, like us, believe in the power of intuition and your inner voice, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to know your thoughts. What moment in the story made you the most anxious? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching.